So Wizards released the first part of a prequel adventure leading into Spelljammer that will take you from level 1 to level 5. And it looks like, just based on the fact that it's broken up into 4 parts, that it's going to come out once per week until the main release of Spelljammer Box Set. So this first part, Orientation, is free on D&D Beyond. I'll leave a link in the description. At first when I started reading this, I wasn't sure I was liking it. Obviously there's things that I would like to see. I want my players to be some of the cool races that are in Spelljammer. Those aren't available to us yet. So in this, they're coming into this academy from, a known part of the world, whether that's, Eberron or Faerun or whatever. You can sort of place this academy anywhere there and have players come to it. They probably don't know each other. They're not supposed to have super long backstories. This is also meant to be played in local gaming shops as part of their Adventurers League, so that part makes sense to me. So from what we're seeing from this first part, Orientation, that's for level 1, I think it relies heavily on role-playing more so than anything else. There's not a lot of strategy or crazy things. Some pieces are just roll a skill check, see if you pass, and I think it's gonna take, an imaginative GM and also some good role players or people who are really willing to jump into that. But I do think that this is a pretty strong introduction and it has a lot of promise. Obviously, level 1 of any adventure isn't gonna be the most captivating part of it, but let's dive in and check it out and you can see for yourself. So we can see here it supports 3 to 7 first level characters. They're at this Spelljammer Academy, which there is a handout for. It's kind of on the water, and it's setting-wise, this looks really cool. I think the security levels thing makes it seem kind of cool, although so far I haven't been really impressed at how that plays out mechanically. So part 1, we dive right into the action. We're just immediately rolling for initiative. We have this box text about them being on this ship. The captain is dead. There's questions that they might be asked, and this outlines a couple of answers. But what this is it's all a simulation. So they're gonna fight these astral reavers that use bandit statistics. There are a number of random events that can sort of happen with these throughout the battle, but the battle is very scripted. It goes for 2 rounds. There is no initiative for the enemies, they just go last. And so the characters will take 2 sets of turns against these bandits. More could show up. There's some different things that might happen with their appearance, which I really like these, because this gets us into the imagination of this space. We have the giant goldfish bowl head containing a floating brain for one of these astral reavers. Or we have the serrated iron jaw, mechanical arm, burning beard, the torn wedding dress stained in blood. It just really sets the tone of this. But then after 2 rounds of combat and the enemies go last in each round, then we realize that this was actually the magical chamber of the simulation deck, and now your memories are slowly fitting back into place. Now we can introduce and connect our characters. I think that's a fine introduction. Part 2 seems like it would be kind of boring, but I think that players can make it into something interesting, and a DM can make it into something interesting. You basically have a set of orientation tasks here where you have to get your welcome pack, go grab a bunk at the academy so you know where you're sleeping, go to ship inspection, go to get weaponry and other stuff at the stores. None of them are too fancy or anything, but I think you can play them into something interesting. There's also this security note. We just want to establish that this place takes its security pretty seriously, and also recent thefts, cluing us into something that's going on here. So they can kind of freely explore the campus, this academy, anywhere that their security level will get them, which they're going to immediately get these cadet ones. This explains the security levels, but for the most part in this adventure, they start out as a visitor, they become a cadet. So there's also random things that happen to sort of bring this place to life. This magical voice announces this, or there's a manacled mind flayer passing on the gurney. Strange glowing fish swim through the air and phase through walls as they go. No one seems bothered by them. This is normal here. Ectoplasmic breach, these kind of things we're setting the scene. So while you can't be some of these races because the stats aren't released yet, you can't be a Thicreen, you can't be a Gif, but you can encounter and understand this. So if you want to run the 5 through 8 adventure that's coming out in August, and you want to be one of those, it seems like you might want to wait to start this adventure. But if you just want to be characters that are just enveloped in this world of all this sort of magical, silly stuff, then you're fine. So then in part 2 here, we get all these locations described. Some of them are where we take care of these tasks. So we have to get our welcome pack. One of the tasks is this obstacle course in the gymnasium, and you can make that a race between the players to make it a little bit more interesting and add some stakes and have them role play with each other and maybe trash talk or encourage each other. Something to try and bring that to life. And make it a fun time. So we keep introducing locations they get to explore, and then we have this ship inspection task where there's these twin gnomes who finish each other's sentences, Kip and Pick. One of them has a scar over the face. There is a little event here where you can, the character with the highest perception, whatever they roll, is going to notice that there's a bottle being exchanged that looks a little bit shady with a hobgoblin. It turns out this is actually like a benevolent teacher that just, when people come back from a mission, he gives them a sniff of rum. And if you report them, then there might be consequences later. Seems to be what has been suggested here. We'll have to see what those turn out to be. So then over in the Spelljammer Nexus, we have Serth Abizine, and there's not really a mechanical thing to this basic training task. It's a bunch of questions about their past. That makes sense for an Adventurers League type of thing. Just have them immediately deciding this on the fly where people can just jump in. I don't prefer to run an adventure like that. I think you get better answers if people think about them, and sometimes, ideas pop into our head in the shower while we're driving or whatever. If you're gonna run this, what I would do is just, talk to your players and have them think about some of these things beforehand, one-on-one. They don't have to tell the other players or necessarily be connected. Or you can just go with this. We're also taking a trip to the stores where they can buy basic stuff. I'm never really a huge fan of shopping in-game. I often have my players do it outside of the adventure because it's not the most interesting thing, but they do give you an interesting NPC to introduce you to, and I have a feeling Mr. Blip is gonna come back. He's an auto gnome, so they are showing off some of the races. We already had the Hattazi, and we got the auto gnome, so we're seeing a little bit of that going on here. After we finish most of those tasks, Tarto gives us another task. We are to bring a crate to the Academy head, Mert the Merciless, also known as the Old Wolf. And so they just have to bring the crate to his room, and he gives you the security clearance to get there. It weighs 100 pounds, so there's stuff going on there. And then when you get there, Mert is super hungover. His room has all this nice stuff, and there's some, a fishbowl with a bunch of swimming octopuses, and there's a wardrobe that if you go in it, it totally, puts on makeup and perfume and does your hair for you and does fresh pressed clothes, and it invigorates you and actually restores your HP to full. And Mert's on a waterbed. So there's a lot of nice details in this room, although we don't get like a crazy cool map. I mean, it's simple. That's fine. The rest of this stuff gives me some good imagination, but I think that is kind of a missed opportunity to really imagine this space more. Mert is hungover. He asks you to open this crate. He's in no position to do anything because he had a rough night last night. And now there's these Neogi hatchlings that come out. There's a ton of them. For their challenge rating, I think they can dish out a lot of damage because they get both their regular attack plus poison damage and the chance to poison. So some rolls can really sway this one way or the other for level 1 characters, but they look cool. I love the Neogi, and we can have them climb on the walls and stuff to just sort of add some flavor. You fight them, and what happens here is this is also another kind of pre-scripted battle that you can't really lose. You could have someone die if it happens fast enough, but basically each round Mert takes a turn, he slowly gets his act together, and eventually, once he finally does, he just eliminates this threat completely in one round, regardless of the state of what else is going on. And that sort of sets us up for the next adventure, the next level. Something isn't as it seems. This academy is under some kind of attack. We'll see what's going on as level 2 characters next week, right? So this wasn't totally what I was hoping for. I really want my players to be these cool races rather than to have me play all of them if I was going to run this. I do think this has a lot of promise. I would find this more interesting to run than, say, the Lost Mines adventure, but I don't know that it would be good for like first-time DMs or players, even though mechanically everything so far is not complicated at all. It's pretty simple compared to other stuff in D&D. We're level 1 still. I love the setting, all of that stuff. It's really hard to judge it just based off level 1 because obviously that's where you can do the least stuff. It has a lot of potential, and I'm excited to see what they come out with in the weeks to come and with Spelljammer on August 16th. So until then, keep rolling and have fun.